The most socially protected desire on earth is the desire to make a person. You can confess almost anything and get judged, but if you say you want kids, people nod like you just announced you're joining the light side. Nobody asks what's underneath it. Nobody asks what you're trying to fix. And I'm not saying that to shame anyone. I'm saying it because if we don't look under the halo, we keep repeating the same quiet harm with a smile. You know the feeling. You keep scrolling through other people's lives, thumb sliding like it's sanding down a feeling, and somewhere between a wedding photo and a promotion post, you get hit with a soft panic. Everyone is moving forward. Everyone is building something that looks permanent, and you're still here, living in a rented body, in a rented apartment, in a rented attention span. Your life starts to feel like a story being performed to an empty house. And in the vast, echoing silence of that theater, the idea shows up like a warm animal, a family, a little face that looks like yours, a reason to wake up, a reason to stop feeling like your life is one long waiting room with better Wi-Fi. So you reach for the one thing culture still frames as unquestionable purpose, and nobody tells you the dark truth. Parenthood is often a rescue fantasy wearing a halo. If that sentence makes you bristle, good. That bristle is the point. That's your nervous system defending a story you've been trained to worship. Because the first thing you need is absolution. If you've ever wanted kids for reasons that aren't pure, you're not broken. You're not evil. You're not a narcissist hiding behind diapers. You're a human animal in a fragmented world, trying to create safety in the only way that's still culturally celebrated. Modern life makes you feel optional. Work can replace you. Dating apps can swipe past you, friends can drift. Even your own attention leaves you for a brighter screen. So your brain starts craving something that can't be outsourced, something that sticks, something that makes you irreplaceable. A child does that. Not because the child is a tool, but because the adult nervous system is desperate. And society rewards that desperation. It calls it growth. It calls it settling down. It calls it real life finally starting. That's the first trap, the moral glow around reproduction. The assumption that creating life is automatically generous, automatically brave, automatically meaningful. But meaning isn't automatic. Meaning is a relationship, and relationships have motives, even the holy ones. Picture this. You're in a spotless living room that smells like laundry detergent and mild panic. Someone hands you a newborn. Everyone is smiling. Photos, tears, congratulations. And in the middle of that softness, there's a hard, private thought nobody says out loud. Finally, something is mine. Not a subscription, not a job title, not a rented identity on social media. Mine. That thought doesn't make you a monster. It makes you honest. Because parenthood can be love and it can also be possession. And those two can live in the same house. The modern adult is starving for continuity. Your life gets chopped into tiny tasks. Reply, pay, attend, post, repeat. You don't get seasons anymore. You get notifications. You don't get elders telling you who you are. You get algorithms guessing who you might be if you buy the right thing. So when people say they want kids, sometimes what they mean is, I want a storyline that can't be deleted. Sometimes what they mean is, I want an audience that won't leave. A child arrives as a pure audience. Their story begins with your voice. For the first few years, you are the protagonist, the narrator, the director, and the entire cinematic universe. Your life is the only show in town, and they are contractually obligated by survival to watch. At first. And that's the trapdoor nobody wants to step on. You haven't created an audience member. You've created another main character, a whole person, with exits, with opinions, with a nervous system that isn't here to manage yours. Here's where the word selfish gets messy. Selfish is too simple. Selfish sounds like a villain twirling a mustache. Real life isn't that clean. Most of what we do is a trade. We trade discomfort for comfort. We trade uncertainty for a story. We trade loneliness for attachment. Having kids can be a trade where the adult gets meaning, identity, belonging, and a social pass into a respected role. And the child gets existence. Existence is not a gift you can wrap neatly. Existence is a full bill that somebody else has to pay. They will pay it with their body, their anxiety, their disappointments, their heartbreak, their job searches, their private shame, their random Tuesday emptiness. They will pay it with the same modern conditions you're exhausted by. And you don't get to ask them first. That's not a moral condemnation. That's just the structure of reality. So when people insist parenthood is purely selfless, it's usually a defense mechanism. Cognitive dissonance hates being exposed. The mind doesn't like holding two truths at once. I love my child, and I also brought them here for reasons that benefited me. Most adults would rather die than admit the second part, because it feels like it contaminates the first. But the contamination is already there. Denying it just makes it leak out sideways. It leaks out as resentment when your child becomes their own person instead of the person you silently ordered. It leaks out as control disguised as concern. It leaks out as guilt used like a leash after everything I've done for you. That line, that holy weapon, the emotional invoice. This is where the sanctity of parenthood becomes a shield for power. A lot of people don't want a child. They want a witness. They want someone to look at their life and confirm it was worth it. They want someone to remember them. They want someone to say you mattered. That's the genetic ego in a suit and tie. Not evil, not even rare, just human. The desire to outlive yourself without doing the terrifying work of building a self you actually like living inside. You see it in small moments. You're at a cafe with a friend. They're explaining why they want a baby. Their eyes shine with that soft certainty. They say words like purpose and legacy and unconditional love. They're smiling like they found a door out of the building. Under the table, their leg is bouncing, not from excitement, from fear. Because what they're really saying is, I'm tired of being alone with myself. And honestly, that's the most normal thing in the world when the self you've been forced to build is a performance. If your life is a personal brand, you'll eventually crave a relationship where you don't have to sell. Parenthood promises that. A baby doesn't care about your resume. A baby doesn't ghost you. A baby doesn't leave because you were too much. A baby is guaranteed worship. At first, then the child becomes an adult with exits. And if your whole identity was built on being needed, their independence will feel like betrayal. You'll call it disrespect. You'll call it rebellion. You'll call it they're being influenced. But what you'll be feeling is withdrawal. Because being needed is a drug, a socially acceptable one, a drug that gets applause. And a lot of adults are addicted to it because it's the only way they know to feel real. You want a modern life example? Here it is. A teenager sits on the edge of their bed. Their room is a museum of half-formed selves, thrifted clothes, a gaming headset, a half-read book, a poster they're embarrassed about. The parent knocks and enters with a smile that's too tight. They say, I just want you to be happy, but their eyes are scanning for signs of failure, signs that the investment might not pay off. The teenager feels it. They feel the inspection. They feel the hidden demand. They start lying. Not because they're bad, but because honesty feels dangerous in a house where love has conditions you're not allowed to name. That's what happens when a child is forced to carry your meaning. And before you turn this into a fight, listen carefully. None of this means you can't be a good parent. It means you have to be an honest one. You can love your child deeply and still be using them to regulate your inner chaos. Both can be true. Most families are built on that contradiction. That's why so many homes feel like love mixed with pressure, warmth mixed with silent debt. The world doesn't help. Modern culture sells comfort like salvation and calls it self-care. It sells you routines, planners, supplements, productivity apps, and the idea that you can optimize away your emptiness. Then you look up one day and realize none of it gave you a reason to exist. So you reach for the one thing culture still frames as unquestionable purpose: a child. It's not because you're evil. It's because you're cornered, because your job doesn't love you back, because your phone gives you attention but not intimacy, because your friends are tired, because your parents are aging, because you can feel time moving and you want to pin it down with a tiny hand wrapped around your finger. That's the adult ache. The danger is pretending that ache is automatically the child's destiny. Here's the part that's hardest to say without people mishearing it. Bringing someone into this world is not automatically an act for their sake. Because there is no their sake before they exist. There is only your desire, your longing, your fear, your hope, your biology, your culture's expectations, your timeline anxiety, your friends' baby photos, your quiet dread of dying without a continuation. Then the child opens their eyes and inherits the whole messy deal. A planet with noise, a society with pressure, a brain that can suffer, and a future they didn't choose. They might love it, they might hate it, they might feel both in the same week. That's the gamble. You can call it beautiful, you can call it sacred. It's still a gamble placed with someone else's chips. So where does that leave you? Not with a verdict, with a mirror. Because the dark truth isn't that parenthood is selfish. The dark truth is that we treat parenthood like a moral upgrade, so we never have to interrogate our motives. We grant instant sainthood, and then we're shocked when parents act like tyrants behind closed doors. We hand people a halo, and then we act confused when they use it as a weapon. If we were honest, we'd say it like this: parenthood is power. Power over a new person's nervous system, reality, beliefs, and sense of self. Power can be used with care. Power can also be used to soothe the adult at the expense of the child. The difference is awareness. So if you're considering it, don't ask whether it's selfish in some abstract moral courtroom. Ask what you're trying to cure. Ask what you hope the child will fix in you. Ask what story you want them to validate. And then sit with the answer long enough that it stops being pretty. Because if you can name the need, you stop leaking it onto a small person. If you can face your loneliness directly, you stop turning a child into an antidote. If you can accept that your life might be meaningful without a genetic sequel, you stop treating existence like a legacy product. And if you still choose parenthood after that honesty, it becomes something cleaner, less desperate, less entitled, more like love, less like extraction. This is the line that changes everything. If you need a child to save you, you will eventually ask them to pay a debt they never agreed to. But if you want a child because you have love to give and stability to offer, and you don't need them to carry your emotional oxygen tank, the whole thing changes. You stop wanting a witness, and you start wanting a person who can disappoint you, a person who can disagree with you, a person who can leave your house and still be whole, a person who doesn't exist to complete your unfinished story. And that's the only kind of love that isn't secretly a hostage situation with lullabies. So here's the haunting question. It's simple and it's personal enough that you'll feel it in your chest. When you picture having a kid, what specific feeling are you hoping finally goes quiet inside you?